Hey there guys, so this is going to be your part 2 of the notes for adding and subtracting polynomials, your day 1 lesson from unit 6. So, like it says, part 2, since this is part 2, hopefully you watched the Edpuzzle before this, which is your part 1 of the notes. If you have not watched the Edpuzzle already, make sure you watch it. As a reminder, Edpuzzles lock the same day they are assigned, and so if you haven't watched it, make sure you watch it before it locks because I will not be unlocking those Edpuzzles. So we can go on. So this is just general things I did with the class. This is just a quick rundown of the PowerPoint, so it's not necessarily a recording of the class. But I do want to talk about this. So it's very, very important that you always have your Edpuzzles as part 1 of your notes for the day. So watch that first or complete it first. You should be watching it before coming to our live class. Or if you're not coming to our live class, watching it before this video. The Edpuzzles are never longer than 10 minutes, so you definitely have enough time within the day to watch a 5-minute video. They will be your weekly journal grade, which is 10% of your grade. They will close at the end of the day. So like I said before, they're only open for the day they're assigned. Not only are they due, but they will lock the day they are assigned. So if you do not watch it and it locks, I'm not going to reopen it. Now, with that being said, I will drop the lowest weekly Edpuzzle grade. So there's going to be 5 Edpuzzle grades for this unit. I'll drop the lowest one. So if you do end up missing an Edpuzzle, so for example, you say you missed the first one, that's fine. I'll drop that grade. This is an expectation of the class. So everyone is expected to watch their Edpuzzles before coming to class. Get into the habit. I will not, once again, not unlock past due Edpuzzles. Don't ask me. But the links to the part 1 video notes will still be open. So if you still want to watch the Edpuzzle video, that link will still be open in your additional resources for Unit 6 Google document. Once again, this is for the class. Now actually getting into the lesson, adding and subtracting polynomials. So students will be able to add or subtract polynomials. In the part 1, we kind of went over basic algebraic rules. Now we're actually going to apply them in this scenario. Now similar to how we did in part 1, we kind of related polynomials to fruit. So my x cubed, you notice, is my yellow apple, my x squares are my green apples, and the x's by themselves are my red apples. So if I take inventory of fruits, how many of each do I have? Well, I know I only have 2 yellow apples, but you don't necessarily say I have 4 plus 3 green apples. You just say you have, 7, there you go, green apples. And once again, 5 apples. So what this is showing is be very, very careful. Similar to having same fruit but different colors, you may have the same variable. Notice these all have x but different exponent. This is x cubed, this is x squared, x. So these are not all like terms. You can only add same variables if they have the same exponents. So in this case, I can only add my x squares together to give me 7x squared. The 2x cubed is going to stay by itself, and the 5x is going to stay by itself. This is as much simplified as it can be. Now, here's another example of adding polynomials. So we're given the example of 5x plus 24 plus 6x minus 13. First, you have to identify the terms that you're given, and then you want to kind of categorize them and group together our like terms. In this case, hopefully you notice this 5x can be combined with a 6x since they both have an x. They're like terms. This 24 can be combined with this negative 13 since they are both constant, which are numbers without variables. 5x plus 6x is 11x. 24 minus 13 is 11. 11x plus 11 would be the answer. So the way we grouped it was we grouped the terms with the x variable together and the terms without the x variable together, which once again we call constants. Now for adding polynomials, sometimes you'll be given polynomials that look like this with parentheses. When you are given these type of scenarios, we're going to have to distribute the parentheses before you can get rid of it. Now as a reminder, when a parentheses is by itself, there is an implied 1 in front of it, so you're going to distribute the 1. We know anything multiplied by a positive 1 is going to give us the same number. The reason we do this, however, is because it lets us get rid of that parentheses. So after distributing that positive 1, we're left with the same numbers except without the parentheses. Same thing here, we're going to distribute a positive 1 to both terms in my parentheses, which in turn gets rid of my parentheses. All you're doing is getting rid of parentheses once you distribute it. And then once again, when you distribute positive 1s, it looks like nothing happened, except we got rid of the parentheses. But always distribute because it might not always be a 1. It might be a 2. It might be a negative. So it's a good habit to always think of it as distribution. So to finish this example, so we distributed. Now we're going to have to combine like terms. So notice we have two numbers that are squared, in this case n squared, n squared. These are like terms. 6n squared plus 2n squared will give me 8n squared. Now there's only one number that has an n by itself, so we'll just keep it by itself. There's only one constant, so we keep it by itself. There's no other like terms. Now usually when we write our polynomials, we write it in descending order, which is greatest to least power. So we're going to write 8n squared plus 5n minus 3. Now technically the line before it was technically correct. However, in math it's standard to write it from least to greatest. So keep that in mind. Now here's another example. They might not give you the parentheses, they might just give it to you in words. So they might just say add 2x squared minus 4 to 3x squared minus 4x plus 7. In this case, you will have to translate this into parentheses. So going on to the next slide, this is what it should look like. Put parentheses around the first term here and parentheses around the second term there. We are now adding them. Now as a reminder, when we have parentheses, we want to distribute that positive 1 that is implied in front of both of them to each term in the parentheses. Then we want to identify our like terms and combine them or group them. In this case, I have two x squared numbers, so I can combine the 2x squared plus the 3x squared, which will give me 5x squared. I have two constant, the negative 4 and the 7, so two numbers without any variables, so I can combine those to give me positive 3. Now there's only one number with an x by itself. Now notice, this x has a square, so it's not a like term to this. Only one number with an x by itself, so we'll keep it. And then once again, we want it in descending order with greatest power, x squared, to x, to a number without x. So this will be our answer. So here are some other examples, except this case, instead of adding, we are subtracting polynomials. Now this is what we're practicing distributing the 1, because sometimes we'll have positive ones to distribute, but sometimes we will have negative ones to distribute, which drastically change our problem. So here, notice when we distribute our positive 1, everything stays the same. We still have the 4x minus 5. However, when we distribute the negative 1 times x is negative x, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Be careful, a lot of mistakes students will make was they'll only distribute to the first term, and they'll forget to distribute to the second term. So make sure you're distributing to both of them. From here, once again, you're going to identify your like terms. 4x minus x is 3x. Negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7. So here's another example where we're going to have to distribute. So in this case, you would have a 1 here, a 1 here. You're going to distribute your negative. And from here, try it on your own. Make sure you're distributing the negative to both terms, and make sure you're combining any like terms that you may have. Now, here's an error analysis problem. So someone was told to subtract 3x squared plus x minus 8 from 10x squared minus 5x plus 2. Now this is a similar problem that you may encounter in your Delta math homework. So here's where you have to be careful. This student said, okay, well, I'm going to put parentheses around my first term, put parentheses around my second term, and I'm going to subtract. And then I'm going to distribute my negative to each term, which is what they did. Negative times a positive is negative. However, notice here they have a negative times a positive, which should give me a negative, and a negative times a negative, which should give them a positive. So their signs are wrong, but that's actually not the error they made, or the main error they made. Notice the wording, subtract number from number. So if I had told you subtract 3 from 10, what you would really be writing is 10 minus 3. You're subtracting this from this. So in actuality, it kind of flips the order. Now I am subtracting the 3x squared plus x minus 8 from the second expression. So be very, very careful when you're doing your Delta math, and make sure you are writing it in the correct order. From here, now I can distribute my negative to both terms. So let me write here for a second. So if I distribute the negative to this, it will give me the negative 3x squared. Negative times x is negative x. Negative times negative 8 is positive 8. Then you want to combine your like terms. So notice here I have a 10x squared, a negative 3x squared, which will give me the 7x squared. I have a negative 5x and a negative x, which can give me a negative 6x. And in this case, I have a constant and another constant here, which will add up to be 10. So in this case, everything had a like term that we can combine it with. So once you've done all your steps and I've simplified it, that will be your answer. So moving on to the next slide, homework. Your homework for today will be a Delta Math assignment. If you have not made your Delta Math assignment or account yet, make sure to do it as soon as possible. Instructions are available on Canvas on the homework page for today. If you have made a Delta Math assignment or account, but you forgot your login information, please send me an email ASAP and I can change your password for you. Now here's the general study tip for today. Procrastination is one of the biggest enemies of students. So if you can't find the motivation to work on something, just force yourself to pick it up for just 2 minutes. After those 2 minutes, if you still don't have motivation, put it away and work on something else. More than likely though, you will want to keep going after you start it. Once you start something, usually the brain wants to finish it. Remember, there's nothing physically stopping you from doing it. The hardest part is just starting an assignment. So I challenge you to try this with any homework assignment. It doesn't have to be this math assignment. It could be any homework assignment from any other class. But I challenge you to just pick it up for 2 minutes. And after those 2 minutes, if you want to put it away, put it away. But see if it actually gets you to continue and finish that homework assignment. Now, for the study tip, there is an extra credit opportunity available as a discussion post. There will be weekly study tip discussion posts available. So you can see one right now. It's going to be called Week 1 Study Tip Discussion Extra Credit. Each post will have 2 to 3 study tips prompts that you can respond to. In this case, since we have 2 B-days this week, there will be 2 study tips. You can receive up to 2 points per study tip answered. There will be a total of 14 possible extra credit points at the end of the unit if you answer every prompt for every study tip. You can use these extra credit on any quiz of your choosing. You can only receive the extra credit if you submit your responses onto Canvas and watch the Ed puzzle for that day. So for example, if you want to answer the January 6th study tip, to get credit for that study tip, you have to watch the Ed puzzle for January 6th. If you did not watch the Ed puzzle for January 6th and you still answered the study tip, you will not receive the extra credit. So make sure you're watching your Ed puzzles, which once again, right now, I think each of them are like 5 minutes at most. So you should have time to watch your Ed puzzles. And don't forget about tutoring. We have tutoring every day from Monday to Thursday. After school, some days have 2 times available, 4:30 to 5 and 6 to 6:45. As a reminder, my tutoring day is Thursdays from 4:30 to 5, although you are available to join any other tutoring day besides mine. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, thank you and have a nice day.